The most powerful prison is not made of walls, it's made of thoughts. And the only way to escape is to take control of your mind. There was a time in my life when I felt like a passenger in my own journey. My mind was restless, always chasing fear, doubt, and negativity. I would wake up with heavy thoughts, and by the time the day ended, I felt drained, not because of what happened around me, but because of what I allowed to happen inside me. One day, I realized something powerful. If I don't control my mind will control me. And the moment I began practicing discipline in my thoughts, everything slowly started to change: my focus, my peace, my relationships, and my future. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Number 1. Your mind is the battlefield. Life doesn't defeat us with circumstances, it defeats us with thoughts. Every challenge we face, every fear we wrestle with, every limitation we believe in, it all begins inside the mind. Your mind is the battlefield where your destiny is either won or lost. And most people don't even realize they're fighting a war every day. Think about it: before a person gives up on a dream, they first lose the fight in their mind. Before someone falls into depression, the thoughts of hopelessness already conquered them within. Before success collapses, doubt was already planted and left unchecked. To understand this truth, let me share a real story. There was once a young soldier who fought in World War II. His name was Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who was later imprisoned in Nazi concentration camps. In that hell on earth, he lost his family, his freedom, and nearly his life, yet he discovered something remarkable. Even when everything was taken from him, the Nazis could not take control of his mind unless he surrendered it. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, he explained that the last of human freedoms is the power to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That was the battlefield he learned to master, not the camps, not the guards, not starvation, but his own thoughts. He realized that if he allowed despair to control his mind, he would not survive, but if he disciplined his thinking to hold on to meaning, hope, and purpose, he could endure. And he did. He survived and later dedicated his life to teaching this truth. Control the mind and you control life. That lesson is not just his, it's ours. We may not live in concentration camps, but we all live in prisons of fear, doubt, worry, and negativity if we don't take authority over our thinking. Every morning when you wake up, your mind will invite you to worry about the future, regret the past, or compare yourself with others. That's the war, but you don't have to surrender. You can fight back by becoming aware of what you allow inside, by guarding your thoughts as if your life depends on it, because it does. The battlefield is not outside, it's inside. The mind is the seed of everything you will ever become. Win there first, and no power in the world can defeat you. Lose there, and no success in the world can save you. Number 2. Thoughts become reality. Every reality you see around you today was once a thought in someone's mind, which means your life right now is nothing more than a reflection of the thoughts you have chosen to believe. The car you drive, the career you pursue, the relationships you keep, all of it was first built in the silent factory of the mind before it became physical. That is why when you think small, you live small. When you think impossible, you live limited. And when you think powerful, you unlock the doors to a new life. There is a story of a boy from South Africa, Elon Musk, who spent his childhood being bullied, beaten, and ignored by his peers. At one point, no one believed in him, not his classmates, not society, not even the people close to him. But what separated him from the crowd was not his circumstances, it was his thoughts. At a young age, he imagined a world where humans could travel beyond Earth, where technology could transform how we live, and where innovation could solve problems that seemed unsolvable. Those were not just fleeting daydreams, he held on to them as guiding truths. People laughed at him, called him crazy, said his dreams were impossible, but what they didn't understand is that once a thought is planted and protected, it begins to grow into reality. SpaceX, Tesla, and his many ventures were not just companies, they were once impossible ideas, birthed in the silence of his mind. And this is where we fail. We underestimate the power of our thoughts. We let negative thoughts circulate like poison, and then we wonder why our life feels toxic. We feed on doubt, and then wonder why success never comes. But the truth is simple. Your mind is a garden, and your thoughts are seeds. Whatever you water, grows. If you water fear, fear grows. If you water courage, courage grows. If you water lack, you will live in scarcity. If you water abundance, you will create opportunities you didn't even know existed. The law of life is this: what you think long enough, you eventually believe, and what you believe, you eventually live. This is why the greatest shift you will ever make is not outside of you, it is inside. Change your thoughts, and your world will have no choice but to change with them. Number 3. Silence the inner enemy. The loudest critic you will ever face is not out there in the world, it is inside your own head, whispering doubts, replaying failures, and convincing you that you are not enough. This inner enemy is far more dangerous than any external obstacle, because while others may reject you once, your mind can reject you 1,000 times before you even take the first step. To silence this enemy, you must learn to recognize its voice and refuse to feed it with your attention. Think about Oprah Winfrey's story. She was born into poverty, raised by a single teenage mother, and faced abuse and rejection throughout her early years. At one point, society had already written her story for her, labeling her as another broken statistic who would never rise beyond her circumstances. But the real battle wasn't the abuse, the poverty, or the rejection, it was the voice inside that said, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I am not enough." Oprah later shared that she had to fight that voice relentlessly, replacing it with new beliefs, new affirmations, and a new identity. She realized that the enemy within, the one that told her to quit, to stay small, to accept the limits others gave her, had to be silenced if she was ever going to live in her true power. And once she mastered that, her life transformed. That's the truth for all of us. Your greatest prison is not the opinions of others, but the thoughts you choose to agree with. Be king. The inner enemy survives because you keep listening to it, keep repeating its lies, keep giving it permission to sit at the table of your destiny. But when you stop feeding it, when you rise each morning and choose a new voice, one that speaks faith, resilience, courage, and purpose, you slowly starve the inner enemy until it has no more power over you. And let me be clear, it's not about never hearing doubt again. It's about refusing to let doubt control the steering wheel of your life. The inner enemy will always whisper, but your strength is in choosing which voice you obey. Silence the voice of fear, and courage will rise. Silence the voice of shame, and self-worth will bloom. Silence the voice of limitation, and possibilities will unfold. The day you stop listening to the enemy within is the day the enemies outside lose their grip. Number 4. Guard your mental diet. Just as the food you eat shapes your body, the information you consume shapes your mind, and too many people wonder why they feel weak, anxious, or unmotivated, while constantly feeding on toxic mental junk food. If all you consume daily is negative news, gossip, comparison on social media, and conversations with people who drain your spirit, then your mind will become malnourished and weak, unable to create a strong and positive life. This truth became crystal clear in the story of Malala Yousafzai, the young girl from Pakistan who stood up for education when extremists tried to silence her. Growing up in an environment where fear and suppression surrounded her, Malala could have easily been poisoned by the voices around her that said, "You're just a girl, you're powerless, you cannot change anything." But she chose a different mental diet. She consumed books, she listened to her father's encouragement, she focused on the power of education, and she fed her mind with hope rather than fear. Even after being shot in the head for daring to believe in a better world, her mental strength did not collapse because she had trained her thoughts on courage, knowledge, and vision long before tragedy struck. Today, she is a Nobel Peace Prize winner, not because her life was free of pain, but because her mind was fed with truth stronger than fear. That is the lesson for all of us. You cannot expect your life to change if your mind is constantly consuming what weakens you. Guard your mental diet the same way you guard your health. Choose books that expand you, conversations that uplift you, environments that inspire you, and voices that challenge you to grow. Limit the noise of negativity, because what enters your ears eventually settles in your thoughts, and what settles in your thoughts eventually directs your life. Your mind is like a temple. What you allow in will determine what kind of spirit lives there. If you let in gossip, bitterness, and doubt, then you will live heavy and limited. But if you let in wisdom, courage, and vision, then you will rise above circumstances that would have destroyed a weaker mind. Guard your mental diet, because every thought you consume today becomes the life you live tomorrow. Number 5. Focus is power. A scattered mind creates scattered results, but a focused mind can move mountains. Focus is the silent weapon that separates those who dream from those who achieve, because whatever you consistently give your attention to grows stronger in your life. Most people fail, not because they lack talent, but because they waste their energy on distractions, trying to fight too many battles at once, and end up winning none. The truth of focus is beautifully reflected in the story of Bruce Lee. Beyond being one of the greatest martial artists of all time, Bruce Lee was also a philosopher who believed in the power of concentration. He once said, "The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus." His own life proved this. When he first arrived in America, he had very little money, no connections, and was told that his Chinese background would limit him in Hollywood. Yet, he wrote down a clear vision for his future. He declared that he would become the first Asian superstar in America, that he would make movies that would inspire millions, and that he would live the lifestyle he dreamed of. Instead of scattering his energy in every direction, Bruce Lee funneled his life into this single focus. He trained relentlessly, refined his martial art philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, and poured his energy into every step that brought him closer to his vision. Despite countless rejections, injuries, and setbacks, his unshakable focus turned his vision into reality. Today, decades after his death, his name remains legendary, not because of luck, but because of the power of focus. And here lies the lesson: your life will always expand in the direction of your focus. If you focus on problems, they grow bigger. If you focus on opportunities, they multiply. If you focus on distractions, your energy will scatter. If you focus on purpose, your strength will sharpen. The world is full of noise, notifications, opinions, endless choices. But your greatness will not be built in noise. It will be built in focus. Every day, you must decide what deserves your energy and what does not, because where your focus goes, your future flows. Remember, power is not in doing everything, it is in doing one thing with relentless clarity. Number 6. Detach from negative stories. The greatest weight most people carry is not the present moment but the stories of their past that they keep replaying in their mind. Every failure, every betrayal, every heartbreak becomes a looped film that plays over and over until it convinces them they cannot rise, cannot change, cannot win. But those stories are not prisons unless you agree to stay locked inside them. Detachment doesn't mean denial, it means choosing not to let the past dictate the future. A powerful example of this truth is the story of Nelson Mandela. For 27 years, he was locked inside a prison cell in South Africa, separated from his family, stripped of freedom, and surrounded by the constant reminder of injustice. Many men would have spent those years replaying the story of bitterness, hatred, and revenge, and by the time freedom came, they would have been too broken to lead. But Mandela chose differently. He detached from the story of victimhood and wrote a new story in his mind. That he was not merely a prisoner, but a leader in preparation, that his suffering was not wasted but shaping him for a greater destiny. He once said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies." When he walked out of prison after nearly 3 decades, he carried no bitterness, only vision. That is why he could unite a divided nation instead of leading it into civil war. His story teaches us this: the past is not your life sentence unless you keep reliving it. The events may be real, but the meaning you attach to them is your choice. You can replay the story of betrayal and become bitter, or you can detach from it and learn resilience. You can replay the story of failure and shrink, or you can detach from it and build strength. You are not the victim of your past, you are the author of your future, and the pen is in your hand. Detachment is freedom, because when you stop rehearsing the pain, you make space for a new possibility. Remember this, your life will not change until you stop clinging to the story that broke you. The moment you detach, you reclaim your power to write a new ending. Number 7. Practice mental discipline daily. Just as muscles do not grow from a single workout, the mind does not become strong from a single moment of clarity. It requires daily discipline, repeated habits, and intentional training. Mental strength is not a gift. It is a practice. Too often, people wait for motivation to appear before they act, not realizing that discipline must come first and motivation follows. The story of Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players in history, proves this truth. Kobe was not just talented, he was relentless. Teammates would often recall arriving at the gym at 7 a.m. only to find Kobe already drenched in sweat from hours of practice. He had a daily ritual of shooting thousands of shots, studying film, and conditioning his body beyond exhaustion, but what separated him most was his mental discipline. He trained his mind to endure pain, to block out distractions, and to push beyond what seemed possible. Even after devastating injuries like a torn Achilles, Kobe disciplined his mind not to dwell on despair, but to visualize recovery, to believe in his return, and to commit to the process day after day. His discipline wasn't occasional, it was daily. That's why he could stand on the court in pressure moments and deliver, because he had already trained his mind in private long before the world was watching. The same principle applies to all of us. You cannot expect peace if you don't practice gratitude daily. You cannot expect focus if you don't practice meditation or intentional silence daily. You cannot expect strength if you don't practice positive affirmations and intentional habits daily. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be, and it is built one brick at a time. Train your thoughts the way athletes train their bodies: repetition, consistency, and commitment. Some days you will not feel like it, but those are the days that matter most. Each time you choose discipline over distraction, you strengthen the muscle of your mind, and over time, that daily training transforms you from ordinary into unstoppable. Number 8. Master emotional responses. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond, and that single choice often determines the outcome of your life. Many people allow emotions like anger, fear, or frustration to hijack their decisions, and in doing so, they hand their power to circumstances and other people. True mastery begins when you learn to pause, to breathe, and to respond with intention rather than reaction. A powerful example of this comes from the life of Mahatma Gandhi. Throughout his fight for India's independence, he faced brutal oppression, insults, imprisonment, and even violence against his followers. The natural response would have been rage, retaliation, and revenge. But Gandhi made a radical decision. He mastered his emotional response. He chose non-violence, not out of weakness, but out of strength, believing that responding with hatred would only multiply hatred. His discipline in controlling his emotions dictate your choice, you shrink your potential. But when you master your emotions, you reclaim